Hello friends and welcome to gusmcdollgames. My name is Nick McDowell. Today we're playing the third mission in the Jersey Blockade campaign mod for Naval War Arctic Circle, titled Britain Sends Task Force. The first mission in the campaign was French Blockade Jersey, and the second mission in the campaign was France and Britain Clash. As always, we'll start with a peek at the French briefing before playing as the United Kingdom. The British have sunk French Navy vessels in their most perfidious act since Oran. The French people are rightly outraged and the Republic must act. French honour must be restored in the eyes of the world. We are closing our borders. The President has ordered the military to strike back at the British. We have something planned for the Channel Islands, but first we must rid the Channel of any naval vessels. This will prevent the British moving their task force through the Channel, which will embarrass their government at home and abroad. The President has authorised Operation Fromage. Use one of the Rafale M squadrons at Landivisiau to strike a decisive blow against the Royal Navy in the Channel. Flotille 11F is available to launch immediately, and we have a Lafayette frigate in the area. Sink at least one of their vessels. France is counting on l'Aéro to restore our honour. All of France is behind you. So we'll now start the game as the United Kingdom. Jersey Blockade Mission 3. Skipper, we need to patrol the Channel before a task force sails for the Far East. The French are sure to retaliate following the sinking of their ships off Jersey. 2021, May 16, 9 AM. From Admiralty to HMS Lancaster, HMS Iron Duke, HMS Diamond. Situation. A carrier task force centred on the HMS Queen Elizabeth II will stage from Portsmouth to Far East deployment in the next 72 hours. The situation around Jersey presents a threat to safe passage through the Channel to Gibraltar. The sinking of French patrol vessels off Jersey has incensed French public opinion, with strong pressure on the French government and military to retaliate. Negotiations are at a delicate phase. The Channel Tunnel and Calais borders have been closed, with violent protests at the UK Embassy in Paris, and media reports comparing the incident to Oran. Her Majesty's government does not wish to escalate the situation with France, but must avoid any incident involving the QE2 task force in transit. French retaliation is expected against Royal Navy assets in the Channel. Expect a probable strike by up to 2 Rafale M squadrons from Landivisiau and possible submarine threat. Mission. Task Group Duke is to screen the Task Force QE2 in order to ensure freedom of navigation in the Channel. Admiralty intends to trigger French retaliation before Channel transit by Task Force QE2. You will conduct an anti-submarine warfare patrol north of the 49.6 degrees northing between Portsmouth and Falmouth. Observe and report and defend against French retaliation. Patrol will secure freedom of navigation in the Channel for Task Force QE2. HMS Lancaster, HMS Iron Duke and HMS Diamond are up command to Task Group Duke. AWACS are available from RAF Waddington if required. ROE do not initiate hostilities. Use of force is authorised in self-defence against hostile acts or on demonstration of hostile intent. Do not enter French waters or fire upon French territory. Command and SIG, Task Group Duke, Commander is CO HMS Lancaster and the 2IC is CO HMS Iron Duke. So we start the game, and you can see our mission on the top right: conduct the ASW patrol in order to screen Task Group QE2. And the French are obviously looking to avenge Iran and sink a Royal Navy ship. So let's have a look at our Task Group Duke. And the Task Group, as we can see here, is centred on the HMS Lancaster. The HMS Lancaster is a Type 23 frigate, has a 4.5-inch gun, also has a minigun for defence, Stingray torpedoes, lightweight torpedoes against submarines, has Seawolf surface-to-air missiles, and also has some Harpoon surface-to-surface fires as well. The second ship in the group, in the task group, is the HMS Iron Duke, and Iron Duke is also a Type 23 frigate, similar loadout as the HMS Lancaster. And both of these ships are part of what's called the Duke class. All of the ships are named after dukes, and hence the Duke class and task group Duke. The third ship now in the task group is the HMS Diamond, which is a Type 45 destroyer. This is a similar type to the HMS Defender that featured in previous episodes. Again, a 4.5-inch gun, harpoons, Oerlikon cannons, two different types of surface-to-air missile, the Aster-15 and the Aster-30, Phalanx Seawiz, and Stingray torpedoes. So this is a very important asset against any air threat that we have because of the number of surface-to-air missiles that it has on it. So being an anti-submarine warfare patrol, it's probably time that we launch our helicopters and get them out there and listening for any submarine threats. You can see marked on the map there our objective of where we need to transit to in order to conclude our anti-submarine warfare patrol. So let's get each of these ships, we'll get them to launch a single helicopter, and each of those helicopters will go in a slightly different direction. And the Lancasters will launch their helicopter out to the northwest. And there's the helicopter taking off from the HMS Lancaster, an AW101 HM2 in anti-submarine warfare profile. So the purpose of these three helicopters obviously will be to screen the task group and provide an ASW screen. So they'll go out some distance from the task group and then hover and listen with their dipping sonar. And their purpose is to detect any submarine threat that might be in the channel ahead of us, so that we can take appropriate countermeasures before we're launched upon. Okay, the first mission in this series was closely based on events in real life. A French fishing fleet blockaded the harbour of St Helier in the Channel Island of Jersey in May 2021 as part of a fishing rights dispute. Both Britain and France sent patrol vessels to keep an eye on things. In real life, emotions ran high on both sides, fanned by media rhetoric. A British vessel was rammed by a French boat, and a French minister threatened to cut electricity to the island of Jersey. But the situation was resolved peacefully by negotiations. In the second mission, we departed from historical events and moved down an alternate history pathway in which things got a little out of hand. The French destroyer perceived action by the French patrol vessels apparently firing on British fishing vessels. They were actually firing warning shots across the bow. This is the first miscalculation. Then we had a reaction and escalation by the British destroyer, firing on and sinking two French patrol vessels. Finally, we had a counteraction and further escalation by the French launching Rafale M aircraft in a naval strike profile, and these launched Exocet missiles on a course across Jersey towards the HMS Defender and the British fishing fleet. The British destroyer engaged and destroyed the Exocet missiles without further loss of life, and did not engage the Rafale M aircraft, as these did not present any immediate threat. And the intention behind the second mission, and indeed the campaign, is to demonstrate how cycles of action, reaction, and counteraction can cause miscalculations to escalate into inadvertent conflict. So at this point, we will now look to our AWACS aircraft, the E3 Sentry, which is tracking towards the southwest. So we'll give it a movement box. We'll bring it up to a suitable altitude. Its speed is fine. We'll turn on its sensors. As in the last mission, the sensors do two things for us. They give us situational awareness, and they also record the events as they unfold for later analysis. Okay, we'll speed up time a little bit while we set up the anti-submarine warfare profile. So for the task group, we will check on our sensors. I think we will get our air sensors in the destroyer HMS Diamond. We'll get them going. We'll get the sonar going in each of the ships. But at this stage, the frigates, we won't get the frigates to turn on their radars at this stage to minimize the signature and reduce the chances of detection. Okay, we'll increase speed a bit. Okay, there's a Falcon doing something, and we've got a new fixed wing air contact, so we'll let that develop a little. Looks like it's a Rafale group, which is not unexpected, heading from the general direction of Landivisiau, which is exactly as indicated in the intelligence briefing. Okay, at this stage it looks like the air group has 4 aircraft. 2 have been positively identified as Rafale M. So there we go, all 4 are now positively identified as Rafale M, and they are moving directly towards the task group. So we can't be certain, but it's a reasonable assumption that they are in a naval strike mission profile. So the squadron operating out of Landivisiau would have about 12 aircraft in it, roughly. And we've got another contact here, a surface contact, and this is Lafayette, a French frigate. And the Lafayette, apart from its surface-to-surface guns, also has a number of Exocet missiles on board, up to 8 Exocet missiles. Okay, back to the helicopters. We'll now get them into location. If get them down to a suitable altitude and deploy the sonar and activate the sonar. We can't really get the dipping, can't get it to deploy the sensor deep yet. It takes a little bit of time to deploy. But we want to get them into that deep water there to see if there's any submarine threat, particularly with that frigate coming up on us. So again, here with this helicopter, we'll activate its sonar, get it down to low altitude and stop the airframe. And the third one. Same, first thing, we'll stop the airframe, bring it down to a suitable altitude, and deploy, then activate the sonar. Now back to that first helicopter, and okay, it's stopped, which is good. The sonar is out. Nope, still not ready to activate or deploy the sensor to the deeper layer. And the deeper layer will just detect anything that might be under the layer or in deeper water. Okay, that's activated. Good. Back to our task group, and it looks like we've got quite the air threat coming in from Landivisiau. And if you were the French at this point, you would probably want to launch an overwhelming attack on the British task group. So rather than attack with just 1 or 2 aircraft, you'd use most of your force and try and overwhelm our air defences with a barrage of Exocet missiles, all delivered around the same time. So that seems to be what the French are doing, is they're launching all of their aircraft. They're all one after the other streaming out and heading straight to our task group. So let's have a look at our radar. Okay, the HMS Diamond has got its air radar active, so that's fine, we don't need more than that. Now, as you can see with the HMS Diamond, they've got 24 Aster 30s and 24 Aster 15s. Okay, we'll get this helicopter, make sure that we're happy with, yep, it's stopped. Or slowing down at least. Okay. So the helicopters have got their sonar active, so we ought to be able to, or we're in a good position to detect any subsurface threats. Okay, so as I was saying, the Aster 30s and Aster 15s on the HMS Diamond, there's 24 of each missile, and we've got 12, potentially up to 12 aircraft inbound. So one of the things that we're going to have to be very careful with here is conserving our missiles and using them only when we need to. So I'm dropping down some of the settings here so that so the ships only use the minimum necessary ammunition when they engage. Okay, we have the first launch of an Exocet onto the task group. And this idea of preserving our missile strength, I think, is going to be quite critical, because again, we're up against 12 aircraft, and the aircraft can always refuel and rearm. So we have to be mindful that we need to use those surface-to-air missiles both to neutralise any threats, and we'll engage the Rafale M now with an Aster 30. We also have to neutralise both the missile threat and the airframe. And each of those attacks can potentially take multiple missiles. So we have the Asters, and then also for close range work, we do actually have the Seawolf missiles that are on the Lancaster and the Iron Duke. And you can see the Seawolf missiles. We have 64 of them, but they have a very short range. Okay. So we've got our first missiles out towards the Rafales. Let's again check our settings. Yes, we can launch minimum necessary. And we're looking to engage these incoming Exocet missiles here. We'll give them a little bit more time, and we'll use Aster 15s for this task, which is a shorter range, and we'll try and, in the first instance, use the Aster 30s to engage the Rafale. Okay, there's the Aster 30 and Rafale. Oop, there we go, our first kill. And another. Okay, so we're already getting hits on the Rafales coming in, and the importance of doing that, of course, is not only do you knock down the plane, but you prevent the plane from re-engaging with further Exocet missiles. So if we shoot it down, it can't go back to the airbase and rearm. So it's not merely about shooting down the incoming missiles, it's also about destroying the capability to deliver more missiles. Okay, we've got... that's some of our other assets we can potentially use. Okay, very small, short-range, close-in weapon systems here, so we want to use something else to engage the Exocet. There we go, Aster 15's out. That Exocet is way too close for comfort. And we'll use the Aster 30s on the Rafales. Here's the Exocet coming in. You can see it tracking towards the task group. And hopefully our close-in weapon systems will deal with this. Okay, so looking at some of our close-in weapon systems. So far so good. Oh no! We've been hit. And that's the Lancaster, hit by a single Exocet missile, down to 74% health. Okay, that's not ideal. So we want to engage with our Seawolf surface-to-air missiles any further Exocet threats. Okay, and we'll target the remaining Rafale M's for engagement by the Aster 30s. This Rafale has been targeted, we'll see how we go. Oh, and another one down. And this one seems to have gotten away. Okay, back to the inbound air missile threat. Okay, we've got our Aster 15s can target this incoming Exocet. We also have the Phalanx and the minigun, as well as the Oerlikon 30mm. And there we go, we've knocked out that Exocet. As I said before, managing our stocks of missiles will be very, very important. There we go, we've shot down another Rafale. Still have our Seawolves, and another Rafale. another Rafale splash. Okay, so back to the task group, and just having a look here at the number of Rafales we've downed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like 7 or so have been knocked down so far, leaving probably around 5 Rafale that we'll need to deal with, and hence why preserving our surface-to-air missiles, Aster-15s and our Aster-30s, is so important, because those Rafales can now rearm. And we also, of course, have the Lafayette sitting just across the visual horizon. Another Exocet inbound. We'll target that with the Aster-15s. We've set up our ROE so we expend the minimum number of missiles necessary to engage the target. So this is the Exocet now inbound on the task group. And of course we don't want any more hits on our ships. The French have scored a hit, which no doubt will help them politically, but we don't want to risk our lives or our ships any more than we've already had to already. So an Aster-15 out on that Exocet, and we'll look to engage with Seawolf missiles if we need to. Yep, and that looks like a hit, but there's still an Exocet. Engaging now with a Seawolf from the HMS Lancaster. Now we see 2 missiles have just gone out. And there we go, handily disposed of the incoming Exocet. So we have some of the Rafale, looks like 4 of the Rafale now returning to base and 1 inbound, so that tallies with our estimate earlier that we've downed Splash 7 aircraft out of 12, leaving 5 remaining. And we'll allow this Rafale M to get in reasonably close. Look, it just looks like it just fired an Exocet at us, so it's probably a good time for us to engage because it may turn away. Engaging it with an Rafale 30. Sorry, an Aster 30. So we're engaging the Rafale. And yep, there it is, turning away. And the reason we allowed it to come this close is to make it harder for it to evade the weapon by going outside the Aster 30's range. And you can see that there's no way that the Rafale can evade the Aster 30 by outrunning it at this point. Here's the Lafayette, still hasn't launched on us yet. So if possible, we may see this scenario out without any action with the Lafayette. Okay, the Rafale seems to have evaded the Aster 30s by manoeuvring, so we'll re-engage. Okay, we've got Seawolves for the incoming Exocet from the Lancaster. We've got enough Seawolves to be able to protect ourselves. And this is the Rafale, which has been detected, as you can see, by the Aster 30 SAM, which is now tracking it. So if we can splash that Rafale, we're then down to 4 airframes. Okay, we've got Seawolves, not quite time to engage the Exocet yet. There's the Rafale that we are targeting. And missile inbound, and yep, splash. Splash 1 Rafale. Okay, we're now getting ready for our Seawolf surface-to-air missiles from the HMS Lancaster to engage this incoming Exocet. Lancaster is down to 74% health, but no fire, which is relatively good news. Okay, about time to target now. Yep, there we go. Missiles out. One hit and the second hit. So both Exocets downed. Okay, and for now that seems to be the end of the air threat, although I suspect that there are 4 remaining Rafales heading back to Landivisiau, and they will refuel, rearm and come back at us. Our Harpoon gives us the ability, if we need to reach out and touch the Lafayette, but what we will try to do as far as possible is to avoid surface contact. In this scenario, obviously we're not trying to further escalate the situation, and even though we've come under air attack from the Rafales, we don't need to further escalate the situation with the Lafayette. Now the Lafayette appears to have fired upon us. Okay, so we just check where we're going. We want to reposition our helicopters in advance of our fleet. We want to make sure that we've got our ears out for any submarine threats. Okay, back to the task group, which we will redirect away from the Lafayette. But as you can see, the Lafayette has launched Exocet. Okay, how many are there now? That's 8 Exocet missiles. So this is the full loadout of the Lafayette. It has 8 Exocet missiles on board, so they've essentially fired every Exocet in their arsenal all at once, no doubt with the aim of overloading our air defense system. So we do have our Seawolf. We have our Seawolf surface-to-air missiles, and as I explained earlier, we also just have to be that mindful of managing our inventory. And we have Harpoons. We could respond against the Lafayette if we wish to, but again, we're trying to de-escalate the situation whilst responding and defending ourselves against retaliation. So at this point, I'm going to choose not to engage the Lafayette with Harpoons, although I have more than enough Harpoons and Stingrays to be able to sink the Lafayette, but we'll refrain from doing that to avoid escalation. So it looks here like all of our ships have activated their radars, no doubt when they came under air threat, except for the Iron Duke has not. The HMS Diamond is active. Yeah, there's the range of our Seawolves. We could engage these 8 Exocet missiles with our Aster 30s or Aster 15s at this stage, but I'm choosing not to do so because I want to preserve those to be able to engage the remaining 4 Rafale M's and their Exocet missiles when they come in. The Seawolves are effective against the Exocets, but because of the range, it's most of the Rafales will not come within range of the Seawolf SAM. So we're going to engage now with Seawolf. It's a bit of a risky move, and we'll see how this works out for us. So let's engage this group of 8 Exocets, Seawolf SAM only. Okay, it looks like we're already getting hits, and I'm quite happy to expend a lot of Seawolves on this target. Yep. There we go, some more hits, but not quite all of them down. We've got 1 missile inbound. Let's see if we can get it down. Nope, still inbound. Okay, time to try a different solution perhaps. No. Ooh, okay. 1 Exocet out of the brace of 8 hits again, the unfortunate HMS Lancaster, which now has a fire raging aboard and it's losing health. Looks also like that strike disabled the Harpoons on the HMS Lancaster there. So now the question will be whether the decision not to engage the Exocets with the Asters was a sound decision, in light that we had one of those 8 Exocets made it through the screen of Seawolf SAM and hit the Lancaster, no doubt causing both damage and casualties. So that will be a question that no doubt the task group commander will need to consider carefully. But as you can see, that decision was based on the desire to keep the stocks. Okay, we can't really get that Falcon out to the east there, it's out of range. But the desire to maintain our dwindling stocks of Aster 30 and Aster 15 SAMs against what you can see coming in from the southwest is a renewed threat from the Rafale M squadron. So we have what's likely to be the remaining 4 planes of the squadron. So we'll set up our ROE while they're inbound. So they're currently within range of our Aster 30. We have the remaining 4 planes and the Exocet missiles. So the key for us is not only to defend ourselves from the inbound Exocet missiles, but also to down the remaining 4 Rafale and thus neutralise the air threat in the channel to enable freedom of navigation for the Task Force QE2. Let those Rafale come in a little bit closer for the reasons I mentioned earlier. We want them to be a little close, so to make it harder for them to outrun our Aster 30s and engage. And you can see some of them are breaking contact, but they've already launched missiles, but that's our entire stock of Aster 30 missiles now expended on this last group of Rafale M, and they have launched Exocet on us as well. And the Rafale here, trying to evade by dropping flares. Oh, nope, splash one Rafale, splash another Rafale. And what looks to be the last one, that looks like 4 Rafales knocked down with that brace of Aster 30s. And that is the reason, obviously, why in that previous group of Exocets we used the Seawolf, because we needed to preserve our stocks of Aster 30. However, now we can confidently say we've neutralised the air threat to the channel. We still have stocks of Aster 15 remaining, and given our experience with the Lancaster, we don't want to repeat, so we will engage this group of Exocets with our remaining Aster 15 SAM. Because we now know that these are the last Exocets that will be coming at us. There are no more platforms out of Landivisiau that are able to launch on us, and the Lafayette has expended all of its shipped Exocet as well. But we still do have Seawolf if we need them, once we've expended all of our Aster 15s if they don't have the desired effect. Okay, we're already knocking out some of the Exocet. Okay, Aster 15 SAM's closing in. Okay, Seawolf, it's almost time to engage with the Seawolf. I think we'll use the Iron Duke at this stage just to avoid the possibility that the Lancaster's weapons are out of action due to the fire on board. So time to engage with Iron Duke's Seawolf surface to air missiles. Yep, engaging here. 2 groups of Exocet still inbound. Out go our missiles. Yep, we're getting hits. Okay, continuing to engage. They're way too close for my liking. Come on, let's get these. One more to go. And thankfully at the last minute we managed to knock out that last Exocet, and that didn't score any hits on our task group. But it was a close run thing for a minute, wasn't it? Okay, so the plot seems fairly clear. No more inbound air threat, that's been neutralised. Lancaster has suffered damage, but the other 2 ships in the task group are okay. We'll start moving our helicopters forward, and we'll move our task group to the west, west-northwest. Again, what we're trying to do here is we're going to give the Lafayette a bit of a wide berth, and this is a decision that goes with our implied tasks in the mission of not escalating the situation further. So at this point we could quite handily defeat the Lafayette frigate if we so wanted, but we're choosing not to for the purposes of this scenario. However, we still need to do the ASW screen in order to achieve our primary mission. So we'll continue to move our helicopters, and it seems that you need to give them specific, not just movement commands, but once you've told them to stop, you also need to give them a specific speed setting to go at. So that's interesting. useful point to remember. And there's the Lafayette, which at this point is very lucky to still be sailing. No doubt a point that will be made. The Lancaster is also lucky to be afloat, having suffered not one but two Exocet strikes. Damage to its harpoons, it's on fire but otherwise still seaworthy. So we will complete our mission. By moving our, okay, now we'll deploy our sensors. Okay, good. And the northernmost helicopter coming into its position as well. I wouldn't expect a submarine to be that close inshore, but you never can tell. And finally, we want to bring this southernmost helicopter into a position where it can use its dipping sonar in the deeper water. Obviously, the risk with this helicopter is that we don't want to get so close to the Lafayette that the Lafayette can engage it. At this stage, it doesn't look like the Lafayette has chosen to engage the helicopters, which it could do. No doubt it would have detected them by now, and it may have some weapon system on board that could be useful in attacking a helicopter, probably a close-in weapon system or anti-missile weapon system. So we want to give it a bit of distance, but we also want to make sure that the Lafayette is not masking a French submarine, and so we do need to get that dipping sonar in. Okay. So we're set up for the next set of actions. Our task group is heading to the north-northwest. Our helicopters are listening out for any action. We haven't had any submarine contacts. Our AWACS continues on its course. And so we've got our task group now. We'll then push them towards the objective and start moving in on that as well. Okay, we'll undeploy the dipping sonar and then give it a movement command. Here we go, and stop, and deploy your sensor, the Sintra flash dipping sonar, and deploy it. Okay, the task group seems to be no change, no air threat. Lafayette has not engaged again, so what we'll probably do at this point is okay. Stop, and Sintra Flash will deploy the dipping sonar deep. But at this point, it's the AWACS is still doing its thing. You can see in the background the Isle of Man and Portsmouth. Okay, it's detected another contact, but that's the Lafayette again. So no new changes. So there's no change in the situation. What we might do is speed up time until we have reached our anti-submarine warfare location and concluded mission 3. There's a fixed-wing aircraft of unknown what that is. That's coming out of Lann, Bihoue, so that's probably a reconnaissance aircraft like a Falcon or maybe an E3 Sentry. Okay, so we will, there's our task group Duke. We duked it out with the Laerol and came out on top, and even defeated an attack from the Lafayette frigate. But at this point we might fast forward to the end of the mission, and I shall see you in a moment. So, as the episode draws to a close, our task group is intact, but HMS Lancaster has been damaged by 2 Exocet strikes, with casualties likely. The French could have sunk the Lancaster had they engaged at maximum range and synchronised their time on target for the Exocet missiles from the Rafale M with the Exocet missiles from the Lafayette. This would have preserved French Rafale strength for subsequent engagements, forced us to engage at longer range and thus expend our inventory of Aster 30 and Aster 15 on Exocets, not Rafales, and overwhelm our air defences. Thankfully they did not do this, and we shot down 12 Rafale for no platform losses, and exercised restraint in choosing not to engage and destroy the Lafayette. As always, thanks for watching. Check out the Jersey Blockade playlist on our channel. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.